I didn't want the doll. I wanted cheaper rent. In Tokyo, a one-room apartment means exactly what it says. One room that is your bedroom, living room, office, and shame corner all at once. A narrow hallway for the entrance and kitchenette, a tiny bathroom you can almost touch both walls in, and that's it. Room 301 had all of that, plus one extra thing the landlord mentioned only after I'd signed the contract. There was an altar before, she said, almost casually. The previous tenant kept a religious item. A doll. The family asked us not to throw it away. If possible, they want the next tenant to keep it. They said, she doesn't like being moved too much. I frowned. She? A Japanese doll, the landlord said. Ikematsu style. Kimono, human hair, that kind of thing. Don't worry, it's clean. Human hair? She smiled like it was a cute detail. Everyone had those in the Showa days. Anyway, rent is low because of the history. If you don't mind old stories, it's a good deal. History. I should have asked what that meant. Instead, I thought of my salary, my commute, my student loans. How low? I asked. She named a number my bank account liked very much. I moved in the next week. The doll was already there when I arrived. Room 301 was bare, white walls with old nail holes, a single fluorescent light on the ceiling, gray flooring that pretended to be wood. And, on the built-in shelf above where a TV would go, a glass case. Inside it, the doll. She sat formally on a red cushion, small hands folded in her lap. Her kimono was red and gold with a faded floral pattern. Her face was white, cheeks faintly pink, lips painted in a tiny red bow. Her hair was the worst part. Straight black, cut in a blunt fringe over the forehead and hanging just past her shoulders, too thick and too real looking. I'd seen pictures of Okiku dolls online before, supposedly haunted, hair-growing dolls kept at temples, their locks trimmed like real girls. I had never wanted one in my home. Welcome, I guess, I murmured, more out of awkward politeness than belief. Her glass eyes reflected the fluorescent light. For a moment, I thought I saw my own face reflected there, tiny and warped. I set my boxes down and got to work. You can get used to anything if you unpack around it. The first few nights, I slept badly. Partly because of the usual moving stress. Partly because every time I opened my eyes in the dark, my brain went. Someone else is in the room. Of course, it was just the outline of the glass case on the shelf. In the faint light from the building across the street, it looked like a sideways coffin. On the third night, I got up and threw a towel over it. There, I said to the empty room. Problem solved. In the morning, the towel was on the floor. I told myself it had slipped. The glass case was too smooth. Still, I moved the doll. I took the case off the shelf, put it on top of the wardrobe in the corner, and turned it so the doll faced the wall. The apartment immediately felt lighter. No more eyes on the back of my neck as I worked at my laptop. No more pale face at the edge of my vision. That evening, I set up my small ring light and webcam. Like everyone after the pandemic, I had a side gig online, English conversation practice with foreigners, tech support for old classmates, occasional gaming streams for 3 viewers and a board bot. Nice place, one of my regulars said in English, squinting at the screen. You moved? Yeah, I said. Rent was cheap. Because of a rumor. Oh, she said. Haunted room? Something like that. I don't see anything behind you, she said. You should put something creepy in the background. It's good for engagement. I laughed. If I did, I might not sleep, I said. Above the camera frame, on top of the wardrobe, the glass case sat silently. I could feel it, even without seeing it. That night, before bed, I almost put the towel back on. Then I left it. Because I didn't want to look like I was scared of my own furniture. The first time I noticed the hair, it was in a photo. I had taken a quick shot of the room to send to my parents. Look, I'm not living like a complete slob, I wrote. My mother replied. The room looks good. But why did you buy a doll like that? Delete it. It's not a joke. I frowned. I hadn't noticed the doll in the frame. I zoomed in on the top of the wardrobe. Even though she was facing the wall, I could see part of the back of her head through the side of the glass case. Her hair hung in a straight line. About mid-back length. Longer than I remembered. When I'd moved her, it had brushed just past her shoulders. I chalked it up to perspective. Different angle. Bad memory. Stress. It's just a doll, I told my mother on the phone that Sunday. There was a long pause. You know, she said, your grandmother had one like that. She said you never keep them in small rooms. They like more space. I have 6 tatami and a balcony, I said. That's luxury for a doll. She also said, my mother continued as if I hadn't joked, don't sleep with your head lower than hers. If she can look down on you, her feelings grow. It was an old country kind of superstition. The kind of thing people say when they grew up in wooden houses with sliding doors and too many shadows. I glanced at the shelf. Technically, the doll was higher than my futon. So I should stick her on the floor? I said. Next to my pillow? Throw it away, my mother said flatly. I can't, I said. It belongs to the previous tenant's family. The landlord. I don't care, she snapped. Things like that are not your responsibility. We changed the subject. But that night, when I lay down, I kept seeing the photo in my mind. The clean line of hair. Too real. Too heavy. I fell asleep facing the wardrobe, watching the dark square of the case until my eyes blurred. The sounds started the next week. At first, it was the usual apartment noise. Footsteps upstairs. Toilet tanks refilling. Water in the pipes. Then I started hearing something else. A soft, irregular shoo, 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 from the corner near the wardrobe. Like fabric sliding against glass. Or hair being brushed. It always came when I had almost fallen asleep. Just enough to jerk me awake. Just low enough to make doubt a weapon against myself. On the third night of it, I snapped. I got up, turned on the light, and dragged my ladder chair over to the wardrobe. The glass case was slightly fogged on the inside, as if someone had breathed on it. The doll was turned toward the room again. Her face pressed almost up against the glass. I hadn't left her like that. Her hair covered more of the red cushion now. Not a lot. Just enough. Nope, I said out loud, heart hammering. I unlocked the front door, stepped into the hallway, and carried the entire case down to the bicycle parking area on the ground floor. There was a covered corner where people left broken chairs and things they meant to take to the bulk trash station sometime. I put the doll there. She looked small and out of place next to the battered umbrellas. Guilt prickled. The previous tenant's family had asked for her to be kept. But they weren't the ones losing sleep. Sorry, I muttered. You can enjoy more space now. I went back up, closed the door, and slept better than I had since moving in. For 3 nights. On the 4th morning, someone knocked. Not on my door. On my wall. 3 short, sharp taps near my head. I sat up, heart racing. Sorry. I called out. Did I drop something last night? No answer. I pressed my ear to the wall. Silence. My neighbor on that side was an old man I'd seen once in the mailboxes area. He'd bowed without looking at me. Lived alone, the landlord said. Quiet. Retired. I got ready for work. When I opened the door, something waited on the threshold. The glass case. The doll stared up at me through the smudged cover. Her hair spilled onto the red cushion, thick and level. Someone had put her directly in front of my door, lined up precisely with the frame. I looked up and down the hallway. No footsteps. No closing doors. Empty. A scrap of paper was taped to the top of the case. Old, brittle, edges curled. The ink had faded almost gray. In clumsy, old-fashioned handwriting, it said, "For room 301. She is happiest where she can hear people. Please do not put her outside. She doesn't like the rain." My skin crawled. I crumpled the note into my pocket, picked up the case without looking directly into the doll's eyes, and brought her back in. Not because I wanted to. Because leaving her there felt worse. I put the case on the floor near the door, as far from my futon as possible. As I closed the door, I thought I heard something from the neighbor's side. A low, dry chuckle. Or maybe it was the elevator. I decided to ignore her. That was my strategy. Don't make a big deal. Don't dramatize. Just let the weirdness be background noise. It worked for a while. I worked late. I came home exhausted. Showered with the bathroom door half open to let the humidity escape, listening to the building's night sounds. Occasionally, I caught that shoo again from the entryway. Like something was shifting just out of sight. My streaming viewers noticed first. "New roommate?" one asked in English, squinting at the screen during a late-night chatting stream. "What?" I said. "In the back," she said. "Near your door." I saw hair. I turned. The doll's case was barely in frame. I had forgotten it was there. "I told you," I said, forcing a laugh. "Haunted room discount." "That's her." The chat loved it. "Oh my God, that is so creepy. Is that an Okiku doll? Is the hair real? Dude, do a weekly length check for us." I played along. "If I make a membership tier just for the doll, will you guys join?" I joked. "We already did," one wrote. For content, I took a picture after the stream. The doll's hair hung almost to her waist now. I checked the first photo I'd taken. Shoulder length. Now, waist. Optical illusion, I mumbled. Different angle. Different distance. I took a second photo from deliberately the same distance, aligning the floorboards as measurement. The hair was longer in the second shot. Not by much. Just enough that, if it had been a person, you'd say, "Oh, you grew it out." I deleted both. But the image stayed in my mind. The neighbor died in late autumn. I only found out because of the smell. Old buildings hold odors like secrets. Cooking. Cigarettes. Mold. This was different. Sweet and rotten at the same time. It seeped through the wall slowly, the way the sound of someone's TV would at night. The landlord came up with a master key and two men in service uniforms. When they opened his door, the smell hit the corridor like a physical thing. We all covered our noses. "Living alone is hard," the landlord said afterward, as if that explained the timing, the loneliness, the way nobody noticed sooner. Maybe it did. The next week, incense curled from a temporary altar in the entrance hall. Some relatives came, faces tight. Neighbors talked in low voices. "There was something in his room," I heard one woman say. "By the window. A doll in a glass case. Creepy thing. They took it with the other belongings." My chest squeezed. I went back upstairs. Looked at my own doll by the door. Her case was dusty. Her hair brushed the cushion now, the ends trapped between her tiny hands. I remembered the scrap of old paper, for room 301. She is happiest where she can hear people. "Did you live there before?" I asked her softly, feeling ridiculous. Her painted face stared at nothing. That night, I dreamed of the old neighbor knocking on the wall. Not with his hand. With his head. Over and over. Until the plaster cracked. Until something long and black began to slide through. I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing. A notification from my streaming app. New comment on archived stream, the doll in the background. I frowned. I hadn't titled any video that. I opened the app. The thumbnail showed my room, my face mid-sentence, and behind me by the door, the doll. The title of the stream had been Late Night English Chat, but now it said, "Listening practice, she likes stories." I hadn't changed it. The new comment was from a name I didn't recognize. No icon. Just a gray silhouette. "I like this one." She moved closer at 12:41. "Please don't delete." The timestamp was a few minutes before I'd woken up. I checked my VOD. At 12:41, I was reading a ghost story someone had submitted. My shoulders were hunched. My eyes were tired. Behind me, near the door, the glass case was visible at the edge of the frame. As I watched, frame by frame, the doll's head seemed to tilt by a fraction. Her hair shifted, as if brushed by breath. Her face was slightly blurred, like the camera didn't want to focus on it. I scrubbed back and forth. The tilt was real. Or my sleep-starved brain wanted it to be. Either way, my heart was beating too fast. I set the video to private. 5 minutes later, another notification appeared. "Your title has been updated, The Doll in Room 301 Live." I hadn't touched anything. I turned off the app. Turned off my phone. Turned off my light. Lay in the dark, listening to my own pulse. From the entryway came a soft shoo, 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 like hair sliding across glass. The last night, I tried to do everything right. I sprinkled salt at the four corners of the room, like my grandmother used to. I bowed once in front of the doll's case and said, "Thank you for watching over this room. But your family isn't here anymore. You don't need to stay. Please rest." Her glass eyes did not blink. Her hair pooled on her lap now, thick and uneven at the ends, like someone had cut it badly many times. I sent a message to the landlord asking if I could move out early. No answer yet. I messaged my mother, half joking that I might come home for a while. She replied immediately. "Come. Leave now. Don't worry about money." I should have listened. Instead, I decided to stay one more night. Just one. It was raining. Going out with bedding in boxes in the middle of a storm felt more pathetic than being haunted by an heirloom. I lay down facing the door. The doll's case was a darker rectangle in the gloom. My eyelids grew heavy. Sometime after midnight, I woke to a sound. Not the shoo of hair. Not footsteps. A small, careful click. The sound of plastic. Of a phone being set gently on a hard surface. From the direction of the entryway, a pale glow spread across the ceiling. Like light bouncing off glass. My throat went dry. Someone was using a screen in my apartment. I didn't own any other devices. Slowly, without moving my head, I slid my hand toward the side of the futon until my fingers closed around my phone. It was cold. Off. The glow at the door grew brighter, then dimmed, like someone was scrolling. Silent. Focused. I forced myself to turn my face a few centimeters, just enough to see. The doll's case was open. The front panel tilted down onto the floor like a small drawbridge. The doll sat half out of it, legs still inside, upper body leaning forward, hair spilling over the lip of the glass. In front of her, propped against the shoe cabinet, my laptop was open. I hadn't taken it out that night. On the screen, my streaming software showed a preview of my own sleeping face, live. In the corner, a red circle. Live. The title at the top of the window read, "The Doll in Room 301 Listening Stream, No Talking. Viewers, 1. The chat box ticked up with a single message from a gray silhouette user. "I can hear you breathing. Please read another one." My heart pounded. I watched, frozen, as the cursor moved slowly across the screen. Like a tiny hand was resting on the trackpad. The pointer slid to the microphone icon. Unmuted. On the monitor, my sleeping mouth opened slightly. From the speakers, layered over the sound of my breathing, came a thin, papery whisper. "Tonight's story," my own voice said, "is about a doll in a one-room apartment who learned that walls are thinner than glass, and that if she listens long enough, someone will always tell her the way out." The doll's head turned, just enough that one glass I caught the laptop's light. In that reflection, tiny and distorted, I saw my own futon, my own shape lying there, eyes half open. Watching myself watch myself. I did the only thing I could think of. I closed my eyes. And I said, in my head, as loudly as I could, "I'm not listening." The whisper stopped. The room went quiet. When I opened my eyes again, gray dawn was seeping around the edges of the curtains. The laptop was closed. The doll was back inside her case, hair tidy on her shoulders. The front panel was shut. Locked. My phone showed no notifications. My streaming account showed no new videos. Only one change remained. The title of my channel had been edited. Where it used to say Ren's Midnight English, it now read, Room 301, she is still listening. I moved out that day. I don't know if the doll is still in room 301. I don't know if the next tenant will get a discount, or a warning, or a note asking them to keep her where she can hear people. I only know this. Sometimes, late at night, in my new place, I get the urge to check my camera preview before I start another horror narration. Not to fix my hair. To see what's behind me. To make sure there is no glass case just out of frame. No small, patient figure listening to every word I say. If you're watching this in a one-room apartment right now, with thin walls and something with hair on a shelf behind you, do me a favor. Don't point your camera at it. Don't include it as a joke in the background for engagement. And if you ever notice that your channel name, or your video title, or your live viewer count changes by itself to something like listening stream, no talking. Remember, sound travels. Through walls. Through screens. Through stories. The question isn't whether the doll can grow her hair. It's what she's growing it toward.